As the Lions get prepared to play against the Carolina Panthers in the next couple of days, they perhaps got some really disturbing and really bad news in regards to a player being available for the game. We're going to talk about today's episode, folks, so stay tuned. It started with an owner who had a last name fans despised, hiring a coach that the experts thought was crazy.
But I got a plan, I swear to you.
Who traded for a QB that was said to be washed up. They said the Detroit Lions would never amount to anything, that it would always be the same old Lions. But this team, our team, has a new identity, defined and expressed by the crazy head coach.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes, I will beat your ass.
Led by the QB that nobody thought was good. Motor City Mania is in full swing and ready to start. So join the show and be prepared for kneecap biting, because Motor City Mania starts right now. Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM, Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and we're diving in right now. As always, I just want to say, for those that are returning to the show, I just want to say thank you all for your view, your support, your patrons. Thank you all for everything that you do. And if you're a new guy that's coming in or a new girl that's coming in to watch the show, again, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for your support. Thank you all for the view. Hopefully, I gain your subscription. And with that, I just want to say to all of you, God bless. Let's dive into the content. So here's the thing, folks. As the title demonstrates, and as the title is definitely saying here, the Lions could be without an impactful weapon. They could be out without a crucial weapon, probably one of the biggest weapons for their offense up against the Panthers here in a couple of days. And the reason why I'm saying this is because just earlier, like about an hour or so ago, head coach Dan Campbell was having his presser just before we kind of get into the weekend kind of stuff as far as getting ready for the game. And he was asked specifically about whether or not if wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to practice or not. And Coach Campbell pretty much stated that no, he was not going to practice today. They were going to sit him out yet another day. And pretty much that right there kind of set off a whole bunch of alarm bells. Like, right now, if you're a Lions fan, you're definitely a little bit concerned. You're definitely worried about what's going on with Amon-Ra St. Brown, because at this point, it's looking like that if Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't practice, that at this point it looks like it's like a true 50-50 like game time decision on whether or not St. Brown is going to play. And the reason why is due to an abdominal injury that St. Brown apparently sustained while he was playing the Packers. And Coach Campbell kind of talked about it. He said that he was able to finish the game, obviously, but it's one of those injuries that after the game has flared up, it's gotten a little bit worse. They're obviously trying to get it better, ready in time for game day, but we simply don't know whether or not, St. Brown's going to be able to play or not. Now, let's understand something here. St. Brown didn't participate in yesterday's practice. He was listed as a no participant in an estimate for a walkthrough on Wednesday as well. And on top of that, he's not practicing today. In most normal circumstances, if you don't practice for 3 straight days in a row, that's usually a pretty good indicator that you're not going to play. But what Coach Campbell did say, though, is that what they're going to do is they're going to see where St. Brown is come tomorrow morning, so Saturday morning, before they make any real determination on whether or not he's going to be able to play or not. Because normally, if you don't practice for 3 straight days, that right there is a normal you're out kind of designation. You're not going to play. But St. Brown is a little bit different because of just kind of the type of player he is. The Lions want to see if he can play, and obviously you have to think about it from St. Brown's perspective. St. Brown yesterday during an interview was asked by the reporters how he was feeling, and St. Brown said he was feeling pretty good. He actually said that he got to a top speed of running as far as, doing sprints. So I don't know exactly how much this injury is impacting him. I don't know how bad this injury is, going to be able to limit him in terms of the game. But it's kind of interesting that Dan Campbell is saying, well, it's like going to be more of a true 50-50 game time decision for St. Brown. But yet, yesterday, St. Brown was out with the trainers. He was working out with them, says he feels pretty good. But you have to understand something here. Even though St. Brown is saying he feels pretty good, we also know this about the Detroit Lions, especially Dan Campbell, especially about the training staff. They are very conservative when it comes to dealing with injuries, and there's a really good reason as to why they are conservative. Because again, let's understand something here. Over the last 2 years, the Lions have had a penchant of having injuries that have lasted long periods of time. And what the Lions are trying to do, considering the fact that they are 3-1, considering the fact that they are in the driver's seat of the NFC North, they're trying to make sure that they don't risk a long-term injury to a star player like St. Brown, when realistically, if he's not ready to go for this week, it might just be he's only out for 1 week, which realistically, you have to ask yourself the question when you're kind of weighing this checks and balances, this compare and contrast here. Do you really want to risk St. Brown being out for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks with this injury, or rather him just being out for 1 week? Because here's the thing, it was an extended week. They did have 10 days of rest. So if St. Brown does, in theory, again, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen, but if he does happen to miss this game, he should more than likely be ready to play the next one because, again, he's had an extra couple of days of rest. Obviously not playing, he's going to have even more time. So in theory, he should be able to play the very next game that we have coming up. And if I recall correctly, that game's against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, obviously, St. Brown not practicing today and Campbell saying what he is saying, that right there is kind of like what I would call a slim sliver of hope there that realistically the Lions are simply trying to just see where St. Brown is in this whole process. Because again, when Campbell was asked about the whole situation, he didn't rule out St. Brown, which let's again understand something. If you don't practice for 3 straight days in a row, that almost is always a guarantee you're not going to play. But the fact that Campbell said, listen, we're not going to practice him today. We want to see where he is at tomorrow before we start making any decisions as whether or not he's going to play. So again, that right there tells me that tomorrow morning is going to be crucial on whether or not deciding if Amon-Ra St. Brown plays. And I'm hoping and praying that Amon-Ra St. Brown is feeling good, the training staff feels good about it, and he'll be able to play. However, though, here's the one thing I know about this whole situation. Hopes and dreams and prayers don't always necessarily result in, a player being able to play or not. So you have to take a look at the reality of the situation. You have to take a look at, okay, here, let's back this train up a little bit. Let's kind of get off of hoping that he's going to be fine enough to play. Let's actually kind of take a look at the pros and cons of whether or not St. Brown does and does not play here. So let's take a look at some of the pros here. The first pro I can think of, obviously, if St. Brown plays, is this. Amon-Ra St. Brown, without a shadow of a doubt, is the most dynamic weapon that the Lions have on the field, and having him on the field, it definitely makes the offense work better. Let's understand something here. Jared Goff loves throwing the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of like his security blanket. He's always looking for St. Brown to be open, and more often than not, St. Brown is open. So when you don't have a player like Amon-Ra St. Brown on the field, that poses a huge part of your offensive production not being out there, which means, okay, now you have to significantly change up how your offense does its operation on the field. So that right there is a big pro. If we're able to get St. Brown on the field, the offense should work a lot better with him not potentially being on the field. So that's number one. Number two, kind of building off of that first one, Amon-Ra St. Brown is Jared Goff's most productive and most trusted wide receiver. Jared Goff loves throwing to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's not to say that he doesn't have a problem throwing to other people. Obviously, he loves throwing to Josh Reynolds. There's definitely production being given with, Sam Laporta and a whole bunch of other guys on that offense. But again, there's a difference in freaking Amon-Ra St. Brown as a player versus other people like freaking Sam Laporta, like freaking Josh Reynolds. There's a clear difference in terms of that production between those types of players and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So having St. Brown on the field is going to, again, ensure there's no hiccups in the passing game. Not just the offense as a totality, but the passing game. Because Jared Goff relies on Amon-Ra St. Brown so very much. So that's point number two as far as a pro, having Amon-Ra St. Brown playing. Now, here's a pro in terms of the fact if Amon-Ra St. Brown does not play. We have to consider the facts of the reality here as well. Even if in the slight chance or whatever chance you want to call it at this point, again, the way that Dan Campbell's making it sound like it's a 50-50 chance at this shot. But here's what I'm going to say. Even in that 50-50 ball club chance. St. Brown misses the game. Let's just say that happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but let's just say for the sake of this argument that it happens. The Lions still have plenty of other weapons that they can utilize as far as throwing the ball to. As I just stated, they have Josh Reynolds. Sam Laporta is coming along very nicely. They have Khalif Raymond. And oh, wouldn't you know it, as if just like it was mere coincidence, which I don't believe in coincidence, I believe everything happens for a reason, Jameson Williams all of a sudden comes off of freaking suspension right at a time when we're going to definitely need a wide receiver to potentially fill in if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play. So you've now got Jameson Williams back on the field. You still have Khalif Raymond. You still have Josh Reynolds. You still have Sam Laporta. And if by some miracle this would be the game that Marvin Jones potentially decides to show up if St. Brown can't play, I would greatly freaking appreciate it. But I ain't going to hold my breath. The whole point I'm trying to get at here is that the Lions have other options to throw the ball to outside of just Amon-Ra St. Brown. And one thing we do know about Jared Goff is this. Despite the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown is his favorite target, he has no problem spreading the ball around to other wide receivers. Whoever is open is going to get the ball thrown to them. So again, having those other weapons to throw to is going to minimize the impact if for whatever reason Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play. Point number 4 here is this. Ben Johnson. Let's take it out of the players for a moment, and let's talk about the offensive coordinator here. Ben Johnson's offense is extremely flexible, and it's extremely creative in being able to allow other players to shoulder the load if, for whatever reason, Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play. Again, okay, let's think about this. The Lions have a rushing attack that Ben Johnson could use to necessarily shoulder the load a little bit to take pressure off of that passing game, per se. And again, as I just stated, the Lions have other receiving threats that they can use to kind of minimize that impact if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play. So again, there is ways that Ben Johnson can use his offense to be flexible enough to be able to minimize the impact if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play. And then finally, let's talk about Jared Goff in just a simpler term of expression here. Let's go back to the Seahawks game last year. So I believe it was week 4 last year. If you go back to that game, the Lions didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They didn't have DeAndre Swift in that game. I also think they didn't have Josh Reynolds in that game. Pretty much, the Lions went into that game, I think, with Khalif Raymond, TJ Hawkinson, and Tom Kennedy as their top wide receivers. And if you go back to that game, Jared Goff had 4 touchdowns and threw for over 300 yards in that game. Yes, I understand we lost that game, but the Seahawks and the Panthers are not even the same team here. So my whole point is this. What I'm trying to describe with this point right now is this. Goff has demonstrated an ability to be able to still function at a very high level without St. Brown on the field. And again, we're still going to have Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, we're going to have Sam Laporta, we're going to have Jahmyr Gibbs, we're going to have Jameson Williams on the field. It's not like the Lions are not going to be without weapons for Jared Goff to still exploit. It's going to suck potentially if we don't have Amon-Ra St. Brown on the field, but having all those other plethora of options that I just brought up does definitely help out the offense and Jared Goff and Ben Johnson. So those are definite pros from this situation. Now, here are the cons. We have to be realistic about this. No matter who potentially tries to fill in for Amon-Ra St. Brown with his absence potential coming up with this game against the freaking Panthers, if for whatever reason Amon-Ra St. Brown is not able to suit up, it's still going to be a big piece of the offense that's not out there on the field. And if he's not out there on the field and can't play for the Lions, again, it's going to definitely cause a disruption in how the offense normally runs. So again, I get the fact, and like I was just saying as far as the pros, having all those weapons does help. But again, they're simply not St. Brown. So again, while it's nice to have other options, you would like to have Amon-Ra St. Brown on the field. So that definitely is a con. Another con is this. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is not able to suit up for the game on Sunday against the Panthers, it definitely makes the Panthers' defensive job a hell of a lot easier. Because let's understand something here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's very hard to cover. He's very good at getting open. He makes defensive backs' jobs immensely more difficult when he's on the field because of just how clean and precise of a route runner he is and how good he is at catching the ball. He very seldom, if ever, drops passes. So again, if you don't have a player like that on your offense, it makes the opposing defense's job a hell of a lot easier because that's one less weapon they have to account for. Again, Lions have other weapons, but not one to the same prowess of Amon-Ra St. Brown's. And here's the final con here. I'm going to say this right now. While I love the fact that the Lions got Jameson Williams back this week, and that's definitely going to somewhat help, I don't like the fact that if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play, it's in essence going to kind of force the Lions to have to play Jamo probably a little bit more than what they were expecting here. Because again, if St. Brown can't play, they're going to look for other guys to potentially step up. And Jameson Williams just came back. I guarantee you this, if St. Brown can't go, they are definitely going to try to use Jameson Williams to kind of pick up a little bit of that slack here. So a lot of people were like saying, well, you know what, we might just work Jameson Williams in a little bit slower. I don't know if that's going to happen if St. Brown can't play. Yes, we still have Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, all those guys that I just talked about here. But if you don't have St. Brown on the field, that means Jameson Williams is definitely going to have to step up. He's definitely going to have to play well right away. And I know this for a fact. He hasn't stepped on a football field since he just started practicing just at the beginning of this week. So you have to wonder here, is that offense that he's not been with for the last couple of weeks been able to, something that he can get over really quickly to help the Lions out immensely if he can actually, if, Amon-Ra St. Brown can't play. That's what I'm trying to say here. So I don't know if I want to force Jameson Williams right away into the spotlight, but if St. Brown can't play, that's something that becomes definitely a thought in the back of my head that I'm not necessarily as comfortable with if Amon-Ra St. Brown was on the field at the same time. So these are all things to consider. Now again, I know the type of player that Amon-Ra St. Brown is. He's very tough. He doesn't want to miss games. And again, if he says that if he's feeling pretty good, I'm feeling pretty also good about the chances that come tomorrow morning, he will be in a good play to at least be questionable to play the game. And if he's questionable to play the game, then chances are he will play the game. We're just going to have to see what the report is coming out tomorrow morning before we really start, getting into a situation where, okay, things are a little bit more complicated than what we were expecting going into this game against the Panthers. So again, definitely some news, definitely a little bit concerning, but we'll see what happens come tomorrow morning before we get to the game on Sunday. But that's all the news that we have right now. Hopefully we'll get something come Saturday morning that's really in a good place for us, and that way we don't have to worry about this. But if not, we at least now know what we can potentially expect come Sunday. But with that having been said, I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to do one of these three things. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not yet had a chance to do so, I highly encourage y'all please to do this. Make sure you hit that bell notification icon at the bottom of the page after you subscribe, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, the subscription numbers are always going up, but let's make sure we turn on that bell notification icon so you always get the latest content that I'm pushing out. I also encourage y'all to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it to anybody and everybody that you can, with everyone and anyone that you can, so that way we can continue to help the spread of the channel, so that way we can get more intellectually sound and good discussion with these videos. And with that, folks, again, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into the show. Thank you all for your view, your support, your patronage. And with that, I just want to say God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see y'all in the next episode.